Hi, I'm Zehra, the CEO and co-founder of TAZI AI, and I'm joined today by Samantha from PEMCO, and we are going to discuss their journey in AI and generative AI. Samantha, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to introduce yourself first?
Thank you, Zehra. I would be happy to. My name is Samantha Lewsley. I'm the Director of Customer Engagement and Operations at PEMCO Mutual Insurance up in Seattle, Washington. And we've been working with TAZI and Zehra and her team for almost 4 years now and working on several different models. And so we've had quite the partnership and effective models to boot with that. So it's been quite the journey, but also exciting times for us here at PEMCO.
Thank you so much, Samantha. And excitement also is from our side as well. I have a couple of questions to really understand more the details of your journey, hoping that your decisions and the way you made those decisions might shed light for other people who are making similar decisions right now. So right now, AI and generative AI are hot topics. Everybody is looking at them. And they are trying to hone in the right strategy to make solutions future-proof. And many folks may be stuck thinking they don't have enough data or the right data. And you have now implemented several AI solutions for your teams. And what is one advice you have for everyone out there sitting on the sideline, deciding on the best way to start?
I would say this. If you wait for the perfect data set, then you'll never get started. You have to take what you have and make the best use case of it. I look at AI as a continuous improvement model. You're going to put inputs in, you're going to get outputs, and then you're going to rehone that model by introducing additional inputs as you continue to improve the model. And so there's no need to wait for perfection in the data. It's get started with what you have and continue to improve the model as you go and as more data becomes available.
Thank you so much, Samantha. That helps. I have seen it to be a very iterative process like that. This is always work in progress mindset. It seems to really work in our other customer engagements as well. Another question I have is this: you're an early adopter of AI at PEMCO, but AI, especially today, is a board level decision now. How did you harness the internal support to move forward with your vision? And what advice would you give leaders that are looking to implement AI in their organizations?
That's a great question. Sometimes when you're the first adopter or early adopter of it, you need to partner with particular areas and talk about what you're trying to accomplish and the why, and get that support, which is helpful. At the same time, have support of the person above you. I was fortunate to have an executive at the time when we were going down this path to be supportive of me and my team and our desire to use this. And we had a very interesting use case. We started with one that if we could harness it and achieve early results with it, we would have the opportunity to continuously improve. We chose to work around identifying churn and trying to save and retain customers from that perspective. And we had tried a few different other options before we went into AI, knowing that there was something there. But using our own data and identifying it through the models helped us be more effective with saving and increasing retention and identifying churners as well. So, partnership with the people that you need to. We had our data teams that we needed to do. Have some really strong data analysts of your own. I have 2 very talented business intelligence agent analysts that really were people that had a desire to work with the technology, but also wasn't afraid to fail and fail fast and then regroup and move on, because You will have times where you may not get what you expect, or you might have to put more data into it and continue to work the problem as well. And then I would also say, make sure that even though that maybe you're not using your IT team in this case, that you keep them apprised. Communication was key in moving it forward, and then educate. We took the opportunity to share with what we were doing and educate others to garner support across the organization for this as well.
Thank you so much, Samantha. You talked about the team. One of the things you shared recently was the level of degree of the IT team involvement and data science team involvement. And as you know, typically AI solution creation and deployment, these are presumed to be data scientist tasks requiring high and deep technical expertise. How involved are your data science and IT teams in creating AI solutions for the business teams that you are supporting right now? And who on your team is working on AI solutions as roles?
I'll take the first question, the IT and data scientists involvement. The organizational group is very minimally involved. And what I mean by that is every now and then we need to restructure a data set so we can use it in AI. They may help us with that or set up a feed. But otherwise, it is, I have an operations manager. I have 2 analysts that one has a master's in this particular in the field of data analytics. Another one has a degree in analytics and math, who have had a long desire and strong desire to learn this. And so a lot of it was natural curiosity, and they're just very effective at that. In addition, we've shared the tool with another analyst from another particular area, who are pretty much the 3 that are using this and mining this and preparing the data sets and getting them into the modeling. And so the tool itself lends itself to allowing the business to lead themselves in AI, which is fantastic for those of us who want to use it, and maybe there's not the priority or it's not been something raised at the organizational level, but it gives us the opportunity to use it and solve our business problems. And so we've been doing that. And clearly, I'll say when we went into this, I had one person who had a lot of education around it, and the rest hadn't really used it in real time. But here we are doing it today and making several models of our own and partnering with our TAZI counterparts to make that so. And IT is aware of it. They support us. They help us where we need to when we have a quick ticket or something to get into. Otherwise, we are running our own models with partnering with TAZI as well. So if you have the capacity in your area and you're just a business unit leader, you know, again, I would venture into this and not wait for someone to give you the tool. You can work through it with your team as long as you have the interest and curiosity. And I think that's the number one thing, having the natural curiosity, and then the second thing is not being afraid of failure. You're going to hit some things and you're going to go and just keep learning as you go and continually improve the models that you have. But what we learned even in our first early models was more than we had before we started. And so you're always going to get something out of it. You just have to continually solve the problem.
Awesome. Thank you. And one of the things I find out is, you know, I'm from the machine learning perspective, there are always problems to solve, and knowing exactly what to solve for better performance is really important. And I'm seeing the guidance on the platform and inclusion of everybody in that decision process to be really important. And I'm having, you know, we are having very interesting, exciting discussions on how models work and where they should be adopted, how should they think. So it's a work in progress and always, you know, a collaborative journey. Another question I had is the use cases. And as you know, Gartner has these use case prisms, and you know, people sometimes prioritize use cases based on their data readiness. Obviously, that's not the number one criteria for you. And knowing that No, you have automation capabilities and huge, really tremendous experience in automating in your background as a person and as the company. Given that background and given the AI and generative AI capabilities that we have provided and you already have, how do you choose the use cases? And when do you decide, this or that approach should be used? So I guess there are, again, two questions. So how do you decide on the next AI use case to tackle is number one question. And number two is there are all these tools, right? So you have automation, you have AI, you have generative AI. How do you make those decisions?
That's a great question on how to decide use cases. Sometimes it's by where you want to have a great impact or ROI, right? You're going to look at it from that standpoint. When you're bringing in a technology to an organization as well, sometimes you do want to mind the ROI of it, but sometimes you want that natural curiosity to also be of the people that you want using it. So your analyst in this case. And they look for things to say, like, I really want to try this. Like, what, for example, we had launched successfully and continued to improve the model around retention and churn. I had two of my analysts that really wanted to see if they could find ways to improve cross selling to current customers for our sales team. And so what could they do with what we had? So and the point was to help them have high quality leads that were going to have a higher closing ratio. And so that made sense because you are trying to improve your revenue intake, but also improve the efficiency of your agents as well in that particular case. And so some of it was looking at what ideas that are helpful to the business being successful from a unit perspective. And then there was this one that came along that since we had this and we were working with our marketing team was, how do you really take all this data and get to your target customer and what data points are there and how can you market, but also use that information for your sales team and your direct service team in order to do that. And so I can look at data size also is like, is it something that you're going to take advantage of with machine learning and AI? And then you mentioned automation, how to decide to apply which one here, to which one. You have to think one's more rule-based, and then you can have automation with AI or Gen AI as well. And what does it need to understand? And then other ones are just straight data. I need to pull out, get this to tell me where I need to have my agent spend time. So this model needs to be, and I think about when we did the work around retention, we changed the workflow for the outreach team entirely based on this work. And it was time saving for them. And we built trust into it because they were part of the process of designing as well. So it depends on what your goal is. If your goal is like, sometimes I do AI and automation because my goal is I want to take the human out of that loop for the most part, and I want to focus their energy with the customer here. I don't need them spending their time here. So there's some thought about how and what I'm trying to accomplish at the end result. Some of it's going to be about the ROI and what am I trying to get more increase revenue, increase sales, increase close ratios. So the goal will depend on that, and then what tool applies. And sometimes you're taking a combo and making it work together. And other times it's clearly a Gen AI or it's strictly an AI machine learning. One of the ones that we're taking on right now is looking at reading email. So there's some Gen AI into it and sending it back and then using robotics to finish the transaction. And so the goal is where do I want to spend my human capital time at? Because value the work that they're doing and what gives them the most satisfaction as well. So there's a little bit of everything in that as you're getting started to think about. Some will do it straight by the biggest, like what's going to give me the biggest ROI. You can do it that way. And sometimes you want to, as you're learning, what can we do to improve our knowledge about where to apply it and you want to give you have talented workforce people working for you. My analysts, I trust wholeheartedly. They're very talented. And if they have a notion that they want to try something, why not let them explore? It gives them more capabilities and understanding of how to apply it is in the future, as well as it is in that model and the learning about how to do that particular one. So I would say, know your goal going into it first. And what is it you're trying to accomplish, and then prioritize from there. But look at ROI too. You don't want to spend time and money just for the sake of it, but you need to make sure there's going to be ROI too. But understand what the end result you're trying to get out of it. And sometimes it's going to be learning. Sometimes it's going to be, I need a high ROI out of this, or I need to improve a process to an extent and, gain efficiency. And other times I really am looking to increase revenue and sales closures.
Awesome. I mean, I like that connection with the ROI. Once I heard a team of 50 data scientists with PhD creating awesome solutions, and then not seeing the next step during the implementation step, not realizing that the data actually should not go out, not realizing that it's not really to the advantage of the next person, business implement this. It's not going to be implemented. It's not going to go live. So I have seen cases where you might have a terrific AI model, which actually cannot go into production because not everyone is on board for going into production. And I always love this, like, work in progress and inclusivity. People think that models are created by data scientists for business users. No, business users and even the outreach people, because it's their tool really. They become the teachers for the tool. And I love that collaboration between human and AI. Another question, and I thank you so much. I really enjoy this conversation, by the way. Another question I have is this: like, sometimes, one of the things when you realize when you take AI into production in a business environment is the change. When you look at AI solutions in a lab, it's one and done. You're done. You have good performance, great. But when you put an AI solution in production, it's like you're running. You're driving a car in the desert, and you are changing the tires while you are driving. It's that kind of feeling. So business changes all the time. Markets, companies change all the time. We went through COVID together, actually. So what is your experience in implementing AI solutions in an ever-changing business environment? And you are accomplishing this with a team without data science, without experienced data scientists or IT involvement. How do you monitor your solutions to ensure that they are still relevant and helpful? And how do you update them?
That's great. You talked a little bit about change. And so let me talk about that in the first question, and then I'll go into that, and then keep me honest and make sure I've answered all of your questions there. In an ever-changing environment, you have two parts of this. You have your model and the data that you need to get, and you're getting data out of the model. So how do you look at it and reuse it and then re-input into the data or adjust the model based on what you're seeing? There's that part of it, but there's the part that you were saying, driving the car, and you have people in the car and the tires are changing all the time. I work with frontline employees, and then I have my analysts that are doing the models. So it's a very strong collaboration as we're looking at changing a workflow with AI or bringing in like generative AI and robotics at the same time. It's not just the analysts working on it. We bring the business agents into it as well, and we work through the problem together because we're changing their process from the beginning to end in most parts, or they're going to have a place where there's a human in the loop. So they need to have just as much voice in designing the process. And I think it starts with a strong, why is it we're doing this, right? So a lot of conversation, a lot of partnership goes into it, and collaboration is the first piece. Now, as we go into, going into production with this, you have your analyst side, they're going to watch for the data. Is what we're getting making sense? Is it still monitoring? Are we still getting the right outputs? Because, for example, if I'm doing outreach and I'm trying to get churn, but all of a sudden the data coming out of it isn't good to call, because let's say they've already churned, or let's say there's a new change with underwriting that hasn't been fully enveloped into the model yet. How do you adjust? So you're always monitoring it, and it becomes a shared responsibility. Martin, it's the end user and the analyst doing it together, and they can easily communicate through that whole process. So there's that real-time piece to it. And then there's always the things to think about is, as AI is getting more prevalent and there's more like policy and securities around it, how are you staying in alignment with your IT security protocols and double checking? Like, it's not, whenever I look at a new model, we at least inform them, this is what we're doing, this is why we're doing this, and still checking, is the model, is this still within bounds and security, with when you look at PII and things like that. And so as long as you're checking yourself and then against these other areas as well. And I kind of, we went into it, we didn't have a governance document at the time, but it's like, well, okay, I know the rules, I knew the security, IT secure, InfoSec things I need to stand by and check in on. And so as long as you stay within those policies, I have so far not seen ourselves go outside of what, and then as we increase the governance around it, we're still within bounds because we stayed within what we already knew we could do. So change management's huge in this, whether it be the people using it or the people that you're asking in IT and security and your data teams to be ready for, because, if the data team can put that semantic layer in a way that is easy to ingest, so we're not having to adjust more, and you partner with them. So communication's key. Being clear about your intentions, key. But also just knowing that things are going to shift with time, and that you're always going to want to feed your model and update it. When I tell people, like, I think we're like on model 182 or something, 182 of our outreach, it's because you're always shifting it, because it's never a once and done process with AI. And you back in the early days of computers, you'd hear garbage in, garbage out. Well, you're always looking at making sure what you're putting in is relevant, so what you're getting out is relevant. And so, but it's always a work in progress. And anyone who thinks it's a once and done, you might want to let someone else take the reins, because if you're used to a project starts and it ends and it's done, then you're not ready for AI, and the mental shift you have to have with the mindset to do AI. So that's the part too that you want to think about. Did I answer all your questions?
Yes, you did. And what I love about this is people think of like software as a service, and we tend to think of AI as a software, but a software that keeps changing. But what you are highlighting is the processes and the people involved in those processes. So they are changing too, and they have to be a part of the whole change process, change management process. Without involving them, you cannot have AI software as a service, really. So you have to have everybody involved with the right communication and the tools. Yes, please go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, in change management, when you look at an organizational level, there's some models that tell you need 70% of the people to buy in order for the change to be sustained. So you want to make sure that the people who are going to be using it, just as much as the people who are creating it, have the equal buy-in. You don't have to have 100%, but you've got to have a strong, or you're not going to have the successful outcomes that you desire. And it's true whether it be this type of a technology you're bringing in, or just a new policy or procedure, or a whole shift in culture. You need that buy-in. And so, and you need to have the right mindset for it.
Awesome. And this is my last question. So, and you touched upon a couple of the important points there, especially when it comes to AI and generative AI. Security and compliance are top of mind questions for every financial services organization. And right now you are working with both AI and generative AI. How are you implementing AI and generative AI in a compliant and secure way?
That's a very good question, especially as governance is becoming more popular. It's like you're having to, as people learn more and you get more governance, you have to always check yourself. A lot of companies, we all have things around and data security already. You have your PII for your customers and employees as well. PII for his personal information, in case I keep using that acronym, I realize. And so in the absence of a governance document, if you stay within the policies that you do have, and then start a dialogue with your InfoSec team, that helps you staying within the comfort zone of what your organization's compliance is and will become, because often it ends up into this particular piece of it. Some of the key things are for us is like, we don't want our data going out into someone else's cloud. So can I keep it on site? I'm not feeding it out, and it's not being used to create someone else's models. We're using our own data to create our own models. We're not using someone else's data. We're using our own, as well as we're not using ours to create somebody else's. And so there's that comfort level with that. Because when you look at some of the generative AI that's out there, that's once you use it, it's public, you have to be thoughtful about that. So going into it, if your organization doesn't have that part ready, you need to be aware as the leader going into this technology. What do you have and what you should continue to comply with? And then understand what your comfort level is. At the same time, we're comfortable with those decisions being made for us. However, if there's one that you really want to have a human in the loop at some point, then you define your model and how your process works to have that in there, and know your organization's boundaries for that. Some are like 100% go ahead and let it make all the decisions or outcomes. And others are like, I'm comfortable with this 30% of it, but 70% I want human in the loop. And what I find is we're doing models, whether it be generative AI this way, or if it's with automation, what I find is people will start off with, maybe I trust it to do 50%, but by the time they get through and validate the other 50 they're looking at, eventually you see more of a openness to like open that up to 90 to 100% of the decision. And it's okay. It's okay to start with, this is our comfort zone, and then let it expand as you learn more. I think it's fair to say if you're new to something that you want to double check yourself, and it's okay to do that. And so ask for that. Don't be afraid to ask for human in the loop in some models, or where your double check's going to be. But start with your current policies you have at your organization.
Awesome. Samantha, I'm so excited. We are so excited as the whole TAZI team to be a part of this journey, and with your whole experience of creating, deploying, decommissioning, monitoring, updating AI models, generative AI models, and creating value out of it, and always being in control, being the beautiful, informed, human in the loop, on the loop, in command with AI is a great achievement. And I want to thank you also for helping us build some parts of our product with us. Some of the things like Salesforce integration, for example, we started creating it, especially for PAMCO, because we wanted to give you control over which leads should go to Salesforce. And that process, that part of the process is independent from what AI does, and you can control that. And there are many other controls that we created, we decided on together, and then we implemented so that you would have a more seamless and more controllable process. And it's a very exciting journey for me personally. I thought, I thought I loved creating AI models, but now I'm more in love with solving business problems with AI together, and basically, solving more problems better. And every day we are learning something new together. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the journey so far, and we look forward to the journey ahead.
Thank you, Zehra. I look forward to it as well. It's been a wonderful partnership, one that we've enjoyed as well, myself included. Look forward to continuing that and what we can learn together.